right, it's Tuesday, 7 p.m. And you know what time it is. It is the Truth Seekrz. I am your host, Tone Duncan. This is IntellectualRadio.com. We are an iHeart station. And like every week, it is my privilege, my pleasure, my honor to hang out with you. I want to say what's going on to Ray Riala. I want to say what's going on to Lena. Lena, loving what you're doing. Y'all follow Lena. Check out her fundraiser page. She is doing wonderful things, y'all. Before we get going into anything, I want to tell you a little bit about today's show. Today's show is really about identifying the hate. Alameen, what's going on, man? It's like I got back-to-back workers in the field. You know how they say the work is plenty, but the workers are few. Alameen, man, you are greatly an inspiration to me, brother. I thank God for you and for the work you do. And Lena, for you. Ruth, what's going on, sister? You in my prayers and thoughts. I know you're going through some tough times right now, but you're a woman of faith and of strong mind. So I know you got this. But it is a privilege. It is a privilege. To my Instagram family, what's good out there? YouTube, what's happening? Facebook, what it do? To all of you who are listening on IntellectualRadio.com, it is my honor. Charlie B, I got to get over the Stormies. I was there a couple times. I didn't see you. That's your fault, not mine. We'll get there around football time. For those of you who are listening on iHeart, thank you so very much. I mean, every one of you, your thoughts, your opinions, and your comments make this show. Today's conversation is real simple, you guys. Today's conversation is about the hate. There are so many different things that we are dealing with on a regular basis that have really boiled down very simply to haters are going to hate. You know, and how do we avoid the hate at the workplace, at school, in our relationships, in our friendships, most importantly on social media? Seems like there's so many opportunities for people to show their natural tail. And why? Why is there so much embottled anger and hostility? You know, when I wanted to put the show together, I was just chatting with some friends on Facebook, and all of a sudden, you know, a difference of opinion can really show you how just infuriated people walk around being. You know, one of the things that I have a real strong exception to, something that I really cannot stand, is when people think that it's just okay to show off your negativity and your extreme disdain for social decorum. Special shout out to my beautiful wife. Just got through enjoying her birthday weekend. I did everything I could to not mess it up. But she showed up and she showed out like she always does. Happy belated birthday, beautiful. But here's to your birthday month and year. E, what's going on? To the only brother I know who get fired up like it's an action movie anytime we talking about real estate and finance. What's good, brother? So proud of you and what you do and your purpose in all that you do. It is amazing. You know, some of y'all know what I'm talking about. So let's start off by this. Like, for instance, some of the people that I talk to on a regular basis think that it's completely okay to just go around female bashing. These are guys. I mean, they really believe that it's okay to be a woman hater. And they actually are compelled to believe that the average dude agrees with them. You know, I don't have that belief. I believe that, you know, if you have a problem with women and you're a man, then there's probably a deeper problem that resides in you. You might want to work on that. You know, and don't get me wrong. I've been around some women that I just feel really shouldn't be talked to by me because there's nothing positive we can talk about. But I don't hate women for that, and she doesn't represent the average woman. I deal with the individual, not the group. That way I can better identify who the problems are and where the problems truly lie. See, there's too much of this just group hate these identity statements that do not ever really typify the situation, but more importantly, stereotypes and accusation that ultimately is never true. Today, I want to talk to you and get your feedback on where are the areas where you deal with hate, where you deal with people who are just ill prepared for a rational conversation. More importantly, they are not even concerned with making sense. All right, they disassociate themselves with a literate conversation just for the chance to give an emotional tirade, just to be able to have an anger and a right to do it. You know, so many times I've had to deal with this in my past. I've had to deal with blanket hatred from groups because of situations that weren't going for themselves the way that they thought they are. Like, for instance, now me personally, I happen to know that there are some very, very good people in this world, and there are some very bad people in this world. There are people who look like you that are wonderful, and there are people that look like you that are terrible. There are people that will hate you simply because you look like somebody they would love to hate. Renee, what's going on? And you know, here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where we try to use some form of decorum. We try and use some form of respect. We try to process the conversation as if it was halfway rational. And then we realize, no, this person is flat out here to hate. They're trolling. And some of these people, they troll in real life. What do? You look up and you see people snapping out, japping out. Right now on YouTube, a woman who went right over to the YouTube headquarters and shot up what was perceived to be her boyfriend and possibly somebody who she was concerned about. 4 people got shot because she offed herself. Now, I don't know how that went because another woman got shot. Maybe she was accomplice or tried to protect them. I have no idea. But this is the sickness that's going on. The sickness that's going on. I mean, do you worry about this stuff? I mean, so many of us, we leave our children in areas where we know other people don't raise their children correctly, don't identify with the children's issues, and don't want to admit when they see something that's so obvious. It's a scary world out here because we got to deal with hate on a regular basis. I remember the first time that my daughter had a problem with another child in school. Of course, I had to take off work to go to school and deal with this situation. Now, of course, the other woman, the mother of the other child, had no interest in coming up to the school. So the teacher the principal suspended this child until the mother was able to show up. Now, I understand how terrible it is for a woman to have to come off work, lose money, and deal with this situation. But quite the opposite, the woman didn't even have a job. She just refused to cooperate. And then when she came up there, she came up in an era of belligerency that I had not seen since the Jerry Springer show. She was cussing everybody out, threatening me as if she could do something, but it didn't matter. I had to take her threat seriously because it looked like she had a lifestyle that allowed her to be qualified in carrying out some of these ridiculous threats. Hey, Seuss, what's going on? See, how many of you deal with this kind of hatred on a regular basis? Because, you know, the thing is that we who try to be rational, we who try to make life a successful endeavor, have to deal with the hate on a regular basis. Tiki, what's good? You know, here's what I'm asking you, because I want you to give me some real insight on this. Remember, give us a call. No, don't give us a call. Some of y'all, I can't do that. We got all kind of FTC regulations and stuff. I'll tell you what we do. Just give me your comments, all right? Don't just like. I want you to comment and share, because today we're going to put it out there. What are the things that you deal with these haters out here? I'm going to tell you one that I had a major problem with today. Today I was talking to a brother who I have a lot of love for. First off, let me point this out. See, I have a lot of love for this brother, but for some reason, he has fallen in love with a militancy that makes him dangerous to be around. His militancy, his disdain for authority, his awareness of illegal activities by police officers has made him an enemy of all police, an enemy of all white people, and an enemy to anybody who seems to, in any ways, look at that as being something wrong. So quite naturally, I can't agree with this brother because there's a certain amount of lunacy in stereotyping or doing any kind of broad painting on a whole group as if some all group identity or action actually had merit. So I'm talking to this brother and I'm telling him, yes, I agree with you that there are certain people who are haters. Like, for instance, I fought 21 counts of aggravated battery against the police. I can guarantee you there were some really crooked cops in that situation. But I also can guarantee you that I know tons of cops that are not crooked. Matter of fact, I know a cop who, the very first cop I ever met, very first one, bought us sandwiches and sat down and talked to us, had absolutely nothing to gain. Nothing. I never saw him again. But he sat down, bought us sandwiches, talked to us. We were kids. All right. Now, he was not the minority, but the ones who wreak the havoc in our communities are the minority. Larry, what's good? And because I can't sit up and listen to a man tell me that all white people are evil, bad, and exploitive, the same way I couldn't listen to any white person say that about a black person, made it so that we didn't have an opportunity to have a civil conversation. Caleb, what's good? You know, the thing is, there's a certain amount of audacity in thinking that somebody is just going to play sway on other people's foolish rhetoric. I can't be that dude. Because you know what? No matter how emotionally convicted I am that there are certain evil people in this world, I realize that if the whole world was based on these evil people, there wouldn't be a world left. They'd kill each other, it'd be over. But see, a few apples to those who hate apples spoils the whole bunch. Where do you feel you deal with the greatest amount of hatred? You know, I've seen a lot of people talk about a lot of situations, listen to them critically, and it's amazing how quickly people will become racist. Listen what I'm saying. I was talking to a woman about the Palestinian-Israeli issue. I mean, I couldn't stand to see the senseless amount of bloodshed going on over there. Mind you, on a separate note, Trump said he's going to put his militia across the borderline of Mexico, as if we want to repeat this same Israeli defense and the Palestinian crisis. And so when I talked to this woman and I said to her, I said, you know, what's really disturbing, what's really troubling is that these Palestinians are getting murdered. They're throwing rocks and the Israelis are shooting them dead. So the woman said to me, you know, there's a lot of Hamas who are putting young people up to this and they're using them and creating the murder themselves. And I said, well, how do you know this is the truth? Because obviously we only go off of what people say, and most people who say have agenda. She said to me, well, I met a Palestinian once and he was a total liar. And I said to myself, first off, this is a Semitic woman. The Palestinians are Semitic. I said, how anti-Semitic is that statement? You can't say that. I met a black guy once, you know, he lied to me. He was looking at me. So now I know all black people are liars. See, when you say something like, you know, I was walking down a trail once and a bear attacked me, all bears attack people, I can understand that because they don't have frontal lobes. They are animals of instinct. We are intelligent human beings who vary in all of our thoughts. These are hate crimes. They start off verbal, and then when they get the right momentum, they become physical. Where do you deal with hate? Neff, what's going on? You know, I called you and wished you a happy birthday. Neff, you ain't hit me back, chump. Love you, though. Listen, y'all, this your boy, Tone Duncan. Our show is the Truth Seekers, and every Tuesday, 7 p.m., it is my pleasure, my privilege, my honor to hang out with y'all and talk about the things that matter most to you. Where do you see your greatest hate at? Talk to me. See, here's where I find a major amount of hate. I find a major amount of hate where you start to see people polarized to their groups, where you start to see people think it's okay to just pick a group and attack them. I don't care what group it is. I'm sick of it. Right now, there's a massive war against all groups. It doesn't matter. There's somebody who hates them. Renee says it's heartbreaking. I agree with you. It's not the nationality. It's the people, like you said. And see, this is the issue. The issue is that you're going to have people who lie because it behooves them to lie. I remember seeing a study once that said people who are extremely creative are usually first to lie. People who lack a certain level of creativity typically don't lie. But, the people who don't lie, they got their own problems. And the people who lie, they eventually learn that lying causes you to be outcasted from the group. But to call every group of people, every person in a group a liar because of the actions of one person is sickening. It's uncalled for. It's just ridiculous. So you guys, here's another thing I got to talk to you about. I'm checking out. See, I got a problem with men who put their hands on women. Now, the reason I have a problem with men who put their hands on women is because a woman typically can't beat a man. Now, I'll tell you the truth. Happy birthday to my girl, April. Now, she's probably the only one I ever knew who could whoop her husband. I love him too, but I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. So my point that I'm trying to make to you is that average woman is not capable of beating her husband or her man, and typically is used to or conditioned to a relationship that allows that kind of garbage to happen. New York did something that I thought was amazing. New York every now and then will shock you. Deborah, what's good? Thanks for tuning in. Every now and again, New York will shock you. New York just passed a bill. I don't know if it's went into law yet, but they said if you're a domestic abuser, you should not have the right to carry a weapon. Now, domestic abuse is a misdemeanor. Typically, you cannot lose your right to bear arms unless you've been convicted of a felony. But let me tell you something. It's not the woman's fault that it's a misdemeanor, because some of these women have been told to their face that this person will kill you. And see, I know dudes who have said that because they feel as though they have to impose a certain fear in a woman in order for her to respect them. And I think that's sick. Now, here's the truth. The truth is, I don't think it's only criminal. I think it's mental illness and criminal. So in other words, I believe wholeheartedly that science needs to stop coming up with drugs, start coming up with a medicinal strategy to heal people who have been infected, influenced, and indoctrinated with this kind of criminality from childhood. These are the same kids that was beaten with switches at 3 years old. Some of y'all think that's good upbringing. Fabrizio, what's going on? One of my good old school friends. I'm sick of the hate, y'all. Some of y'all are sick of the hate too. I'm sick of listening to liberals hating on Republicans and conservatives hating on liberals, and they both hate the moderate. Every time you get into a conversation with somebody, it immediately polarizes into some political rhetoric. And you can't just dislike somebody because the new religion now is politics. Yeah. Bree said, doesn't that come from family upbringing? That's the worst thing in the world is people don't understand this. I did this study once. I did a study about people who rape other people. See, I used to think that all rapists were raped at some point. I thought it was, like actions repeating themselves. But the truth is, when you really break down rape, it's extreme bullying. It's extreme bullying to the most physical level where you have to dominate somebody and prove your strength to their weakness. So, what they found out is more rapists were victims of child abuse than they were of child sexual endangerment. Because when we let out this hatred, it comes out in a way that is unique to the individual, but classic to the condition. See, because we think you're not supposed to tell a child, or excuse me, an adult how to raise a child. I'm going to tell you right now, some of these children are being raised to be tomorrow's terrorists. See, and this is the scariest thing in the world. I'm tired of the hate, y'all. Pastor Shelby, what's going on? Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Oh, man, I love this dude, man. Anyways, I'm going to tell y'all, the thing that I can't stand the most is religious hate. The thing that bothers me more than anything else is to learn the very first rule of being a true believer in God was not to judge because we're aware of our humility. More important than being aware of our past transgressions, we're aware of our present ignorance. See, we know we don't know everything. That makes us slow to judge, quick to love, but yet and still, in all religions, it's ubiquitous in the hate. And it's not for any other reason than we bring our demons to church with us, or to the mosque, or to the synagogue, or to the temple. Stephen, what's going on? Thank you for checking us out here. Listen, every Tuesday, 7 p.m., it's your boy, Tone Duncan, Truth Seekrz. We also have a show. It's a faith-based show on Sundays, 1 p.m. It's called The Sunday Conversation. Mature audiences only. So thank you guys so very much checking this out. A lot of you have expressed some interest on Instagram. I'm looking at feeds on YouTube. I'm listening to your thoughts. One of the things that bother me most about the hate is this hate that goes on between people of opposite sex. It bothers me, y'all. Where is the right to hate each other come from? And how does it clandestinize into this polarized disliking of women of men and men of women? It shouldn't be like this. We shouldn't have that. One of the things that I have to tell you about, I think one of the most important things is that when we realize that the identity politics that are being played in today's media have caused us to really, really not understand the truth about issues. Ron, what's going on? Another one of my old schools from the cradle. What's good, family? See, here's what I got to tell y'all. The sickest hate I see is against people who have alternative sexualities. This has always blown my mind. When I was a kid, I was, unfortunately subject to some people who tried to push some pedophiliacs on me, but it didn't work. I was fortunate. They tried it, but it didn't work. So for a long time, I had to wonder, why were people, why were they gay? I thought maybe they was gay because of what happened to me. I thought maybe if they had sex with you, then you turn gay. Like, when a vampire bites you, you turn into a vampire. I didn't know what the heck. You know what I'm saying? I was a kid. You know how it go. But when I realized that these people weren't, zombies, they were real people with hearts, and they loved, and they was active in their communities, and they just wanted to be a part of the world, and they had no reason to hate you and didn't want you to hate them. I started wondering, well, why do people hate on them? Is it because of God? Because if it's because of God, God bigger than all y'all. He'll take care of it himself. That's how I felt. That's how I feel today. And when somebody tries to bully me into disliking somebody because they say their religious considerations tell them that they're supposed to, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy in the hate. There are individuals that are truly worth disliking. But those are individuals who have earned that right based on their own foolishness, the sickness and perversion of their minds. Not because they have a certain sexual preference. or they identify with a particular femininity or masculinity that seems a little out of place for your particular taste. Because, you know, there's a lot of heterosexual people that really get on my nerves too. And these people are the people who are constantly trying to prove to me how masculine they are, or how many men they can get, or however it works. Tamara, what's going on? Sister in the house, what's up? The thing I can't stand more than anything else, y'all, is the flat out emotional cowardness, where people use their pain as vindication for their emotional ignorance, for their hatred, because they won't process the reality that things just happen and it's not personal. Kelly G, what's going on, family? Love you to death. You know, some of y'all have dealt with a lot of what I'm talking about. Different things. I have a friend who is I call him a dude who just is he's an identity extremist, y'all. I mean, what I'm saying is, you know, when somebody is, I had this conversation with the sister once, and I said, see, when you're pro something, what that really means is if all things are equal, well, then you want that thing. So, for instance, if I'm pro-alcohol, if nobody's drinking in the house and I'm pro-alcohol, I'd like to have a glass. So if I'm pro-guns and nobody has a gun, all things being considered, I'd like to have a gun. So if I'm pro anything, that means that I am for it more than the equality of all things. So I had this argument with somebody I love to death, because I have equated now anybody who's pro anything to be not somebody who's pro equal. So I believe that people who are about equality are about equality. You don't have to spell that in any fancy. So, you know, what I've really looked at is I've looked at the force that other groups give you because of their hatred towards another group. And so I've always asked this question, Torrance, what's going on? My question is ultimately very simple. How many people in that group do you actually know? Because sometimes a limited mind can really create an ignorance that is overwhelming. So many times I see people who will spend the majority of their conversation based in a little bitty world with a little bit of exposure, very limited awareness, and they ultimately try to impose that ignorance on everybody else. Keenan, what's going on? Hey, brother, I was checking out your video, man. That boy, you talented, man. Man, I love you to death, man. I'm glad you're doing it. Y'all go check out Keenan's page. If you got any kind of parties and anything like that, and you need somebody who will bring it, it's my man Keenan right there. Torrance in the house. See, what I'm talking about today is I want people to realize you can make a huge circle, y'all, and you can fill that circle with everything you think you know. But what you'll have to realize is that outside of that circle is everything you don't. And this is where the real issue is. And this is the problem that we're having with people who live within a lifestyle of hatred, is that they become that hatred. And then that hatred consumes them to a point where they're no longer reachable, teachable, or even worth being around, because they think their version of reality is the truth, because the only people they surround themselves with are people who think the same way they do. You know, I think we talk about this often when we talk about how people, when they study things, have a proclivity to study only the things that support their original narrative. They're not really trying to find out what the conversation is that contradicts their rhetoric, because they don't have time for that. Most of them don't have the intellectual maturity to read through something that emphatically disagrees with them. And they get emotional. They start calling names. They start doing all this other foolishness. Because unfortunately, even in academia right now, you're not allowed to have an opposing radical belief. See, I believe in radical beliefs if somebody's willing to pin their butt on a chair and we can talk about this stuff. But when people start just spilling out little chants, start spilling out little slogans, and they just refuse to use an intellectual opportunity to embark in true conversation where they state their purpose, it becomes an issue. And see, the thing that I have to tell you, which has really bothered me more than anything else, is that most of these people are actually not as knowledgeable about these situations as they imply themselves to be. Matter of fact, when they start talking about something, I can almost guarantee you the 5 sources they went to get it. One of the major problems I've had is with these so-called black extremists. And I use that phrase very carefully, because a lot of people have been called the black extremists because they are extremely disappointed with the treatment of black people. See, there's a difference, because the U.S. Constitution allows every person to stand up and scream out their disdain for mistreatment. But when somebody else utilizes that opportunity to subjugate their emotion and then imply some right to go in and impose harm to other people, you have created more problems than you've solved. It's sickening, because you get situations like that in Dallas, where you have a protest against the shooting of an unarmed person, and then you get some idiot to go shoot up the police. Now, mind you, he didn't just shoot white people, he shot a black one too, but that doesn't matter, because to him, he felt they was all the same. And see, this is the issue that I have. When you think that you can paint people through a broad brush, but you know that it's completely insensical for you to be painted by a broad brush as a group, then you are the hatred that you accuse other people of being. And so for me, this has been a hard part of my relationship with people, because so many people I met in times where you had to be physically, mentally, and emotionally strong. And people looked up to each other for their strength, for their unapologetic passion, courage, determination. But then you look up and you see people utilizing this tool to go against other people for no other reason than they just don't like them. Feel the right to impose pain on somebody else because of something else that happened with some other people. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. How many of y'all have been in a situation where one of your friends turned into an extremist? Maybe they're an extreme Christian, they're an extreme Muslim, they're an extreme radical black, they're an extreme radical white. And you say, man, come on, meet me back in the middle, man, where you kind of use your common sense again. But they done listen to the 3, leaders who have brainwashed them and the rest of the group. And all they know is what they say. And now a guy like me, I studied all these guys and I know where they got their information from. I know the people that trained them. And I know the money they made tricking you. And it's sickening. Because then I got to try and listen to this. And I know you're sick. How do I know you're sick? Because every one of those negative comments is like a baby coughing. It's just sickness coming out your mouth. And it's anger. And it's displaced emotional immaturity. And a lot of us, we lack the ability to govern ourselves in compassionate and civil ways. And I don't tolerate it. I don't play a fool with no tolerance. I will call you the way I see you, even if in some ways you take it personal. I will tell you, you don't know enough white people to be a bigot. You don't know enough black people to be a racist. You don't know enough gay people to be a homophobe. You don't know enough Christians to be a Christian hater. You don't know enough Muslims to be anti-Muslim. You don't know enough Jews to be anti-Semitic. What you have is a limited awareness that is masqueraded as intelligence, and you sound ignorant and more ignorant by the second. But I'm not saying that because you yourself is incapable of change. It's just that the lunacy that comes out of your mouth doesn't help you grow. This is the hatred that we deal with. And it's sad. It's sad because most of the time it's something called the ostrich syndrome. See, the ostrich syndrome is when you duck your head in the dirt and blame everybody around you for your problem. I talk to people all the time and I remind them that in World War II, all the Japanese that could be found was put into a camp. We won't call it a concentration camp because the concentration camps in Germany were associated with severe abuse and murder. But we'll just call it a containment camp. They were hated. They were given the worst treatment by the Americans who only knew about Pearl Harbor and the kamikaze. They only knew about the war against the pagans of the East, when God rained down the wrath and fury of the atomic bomb by the great Christian nation. And they believed that every one of them got what they had coming from God himself. And they hated the Japs. They called them all kind of bad names. Now, right now today, they're the #1 per capita household in America. What am I saying to you? I'm saying that even though they were the atrocity in so many people's venomous speak, they still believed in themselves. They still put their focus on their future, not on their past. Taught their children to become educated, not haters. Strive, stay alive. And now they lead our nation in wealth. You ask yourself, at one particular time, are you going to realize the only thing that holds you back is your ability to shackle yourself? See, when we let go of the chains are the liberation of one's freedom to achieve, one's freedom to believe that they have the ability to obtain anything they choose to obtain without the limiting thoughts that somebody is always going to be there to stop them. Stephanie, what's going on? Hey. See, but too many of us, we give a half effort and a whole excuse. We're not willing to try until it comes time to trying to find a good reason why your try didn't work. And we all rally around the emotional, sad, woe is me. Because, you've got all these pity pushers. They make plenty of money. They go around telling you it ain't your fault. Oh, the white man did this. Oh, we shall overcome. We shouldn't be here. No. Well, while that's going on and they propagandizing you and you're losing more money and they doing nothing for your communities, not helping your educational situation, bringing jobs into your community, not bringing trade schools into your neighborhoods, they making plenty of money. And you broker them when they stepped in the door. See, you got to walk away from your own ignorance, but first you have to recognize it. You have to understand that while you making excuses, people are producing and moving to areas that you can't even get to. Because, see, they have freed their mind and their pockets will follow. See, but we sit around blaming somebody. Why? Because we've been taught to blame. Because it's easier to teach somebody to find a problem with somebody else than to dig in the inside and find the problem from within. See, because when the problem is inside of you, you can fix it. But when the problem's outside of you, you might as well sit down and have a pity party, baby, because nothing you can do about it. But that's all too easy for those who choose to do nothing. See, there's too many people out here who have left that narrative long time ago, moving to areas that you can only dream of. I guess they sellouts because they sold that belief that they was limited by another person's hatred. And they had bought into the belief that it only took the love of oneself to grow to the level that they had wanted to aspire to. Is there racial prejudice in this country? Man, it's in the fiber of this country. But in the fiber of this country is also opportunity. It's also opportunities that are there for the taking. But you got to step up with faith and determination, belief in oneself. Realize that you are not limited to your weakness, but strengthened by your faith. Holly, what's going on? See, this is the reality that we have to deal with, because it's getting way, way too sad to listen to people steady talking. I hate people who sit up and use hate. See, I'm going to say it to y'all. There's no such thing. Listen to this. There's no such thing as a limitation of one's mind other than the limitations you put in your mind. See, so many of us, we have the hand-me-downs taught by other people that we bought into, that we believed. We thought it was real, but it wasn't. It cost a lot of us a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of pain. But then we realized, no, it's actually inside me to grow. I have the capabilities of being better than I was, better than I thought I could be. Because when I reach the edge of my belief, I see there's more room to grow I can achieve. Lady Rochelle, what's going on? Love your show. Always checking it out, y'all. Jump on her page. Check out her show. The sister always got something powerful going on. Nick, what's good, family? Denise, hey, what's up? I got to talk to y'all, man, because the reality is far too often we have been the victims of the hate that we didn't even know was against us. See, whenever you start talking like you're halfway intelligent, it's at least 3 or 4 people who think that intelligence belongs to another group that's going to look at you and think you're trying to be somebody. See, it's people out here right now that they'd rather hate Trump than learn politics. They'd rather hate Trump than learn policy. See, I'm going to tell you right now, the reason why I don't like the administration that's in the office right now is because I study policy. I understand where the problems is. I see how it's hurting America. I see how he utilizes an intelligent narrative and goes about it the most unintelligent way possible. Because I seen them do it to us. See, by our own people. We'll come in, utilize the truth, and exploit the weakness of the ignorant. And then we look up and we ain't got nothing better. We've made no progress. All we've done is got real upset and got nothing accomplished. See, and that's the same thing going on in the White House right now. Because as people scream out for what they want, we are realizing that there's a give and take in every single thing. So the things that you want are going to cost you things that you didn't know you had to give up. So this is called the balance of freedom. See, because the balance of freedom means there's some things that you will have to deal with in order for you to have the things that you want. See, because when a lot of people got the right to talk, you're not going to always like what you hear, but you also have the right to keep it walking, not to partake in certain conversations. I'm asking y'all today, right now, what is the thing that you are hating the most in our community, in our situation? See, because I'm going to tell you, when I listen to people right now today, it's a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain. And so many people are victims of their own ignorance. Because, see, ignorance is what you call contagious. See, an ignorant person will get around another ignorant person and they'll spread their ignorance to each other and become dually more ignorant. See, now their ignorance actually made them both more ignorant than they was when they first started talking. Because they had what you call a precipitous decline in intelligence from being around each other. See, 2 intelligent people, they come together and by default, they become more intelligent than either one of them were to start with. What do you think happens when 2 people who are just, crybaby and hating on everybody else, coming up with reasons why they can't do anything? What do you think happens in the end of that? See, this is why I'm telling people all the time, man, you cannot play games with people who are not determined to be successful at a level you could only imagine. See, because when you sit your way towards listening to foolishness, you become that fool. And then you spread it. Some of y'all have kids. And a lot of your ignorance, you have given your kids hand-heartedly, like it was a cooked meal. And then you try and retract it back because they manifest their ignorance in their own unique way. But they get it from you. We have to make sure we don't do that. We have to make sure we don't. See, here's what I want to talk to y'all about. Now, try to keep this super simple. My hope and my prayer to all of y'all is that we start to reduce the amount of hate that we allow ourselves to carry. See, because, hate is like a hot pot. It's not going to hold you. It's got handles. And then as you're holding it, it's tearing you up, burning you up, tearing you down. That's the hate you holding. It's toxic. See, as long as we sit around thinking that it's okay for us to contain this kind of toxicity, then we become the victims of that toxicity. You understand what I'm saying? This is why I can't do hate. See, because one time, and I'll never forget this is right before the election, I was somebody who was reading all the Facebook pages, and I was listening to all of this unnecessary violence. I was watching time after time again, another police shooting, another person being stopped and harassed and bothered, and all this, and I'm getting angry. And I'm like, what's going on? Then I find out it's pure propaganda. Facebook today took down a few dozen sites, took down, let me say this correctly, took down a few dozen accounts, took down about 132 pages, took down about 70 official pages, and they were all labeled Russian propaganda. Russian propaganda. See, and that's right. My pastor says right here, Pastor Shelby says, the hate is within you. See, because we don't understand that which is in us becomes all that we see around us. And if we're not willing, now listen to this because it's really important. If you're not willing to identify the wrong in you so that the right in you can correct itself, then you will only see the wrong in other people. And you will build relationships based on that wrong. Mary, what's going on? So glad you're checking us out today. What is it that you find most hard to deal with the hate? See, because we're dealing with hate like right now. So some people right now that are dealing with hate at the workplace. No matter how they try to come in with a smile, there's somebody right there to greet you at the door with utter hate. They don't have a reason to dislike you, but it's disliking you season. And they got a reason just in that. And you're saying to yourself, now, I spend more time here than I do at home. I don't want to hurt nobody, but there's nobody for me to talk to. Why is this person so disliking towards me? See, because this person is probably telling somebody else in their water cooler gossip, well, I don't like this person because of this or because of that. But the reality is, the truth of the matter is, haters are going to hate. The question is, why do you buy into it? Why do you connect yourself to such a sick dot? Sabrina, what's going on? Thanks for checking us out. Remember, this is Tuesdays, 7 p.m., Truth Seekers. Today's show was all about what you experience and hate that we deal with on a regular basis. Before I leave y'all, I want to invite you to check out my Sunday show, Sunday, 1 p.m. It's the Sunday Conversation. We talk about a faith-based show because so many of us don't realize our divinity. Sometimes we become overly religious or overly anti-religious and don't understand the truth of our divine identity. I invite y'all to come over and check out the show. That's Sundays at 1 p.m. There's no hate. We don't bash anybody. We don't do that. We don't talk badly about anybody's religion. We don't judge and we don't attack. But we deeply talk so that people understand the truth behind what's really happening. So I invite y'all to do that. But if you have the opportunity, stick around and check out our shows, IntellectualRadio.com. We've got unbelievable hosts and hostesses. Some of the people that I see coming here as guests are outright amazing. I take my hat off to some of these producers and some of these guests because there are just some amazing people doing amazing things. And I'm glad for those who have had an opportunity to check them out. Y'all talked to me and told me how good you like these shows. So keep doing that. Kenyatta, what's going on, sis? You know, I don't have a couple more minutes, or I don't have but a couple more minutes, excuse me. But I just wanted to finish this conversation with you guys and talk to you. See, because there's a place in your life where you're dealing with some really, really sick-minded people. And it's really hard to deal with sick-minded people when you start to absorb that sickness or when they ignite the sickness in you. And see, you have to understand the head game. You've got to understand that in order for you to be greater than your situation, you have to see the positive in you, avoiding the negative in others. You can't buy into the foolery. You cannot get into the back and forth, the tit-tats, the anger. Well, he disrespected me. She said something bad about me. You can't do that. Because, see, there's so much deep emotional pain that you carry around that at any given time you a time bomb. And you don't deserve that. Your family doesn't deserve that. See, because you'll do a lot of foolish things when you let go of your mental control. And so my hope is that you keep a focus on your progress, on your path, and on your progeny, so that together we can get past the hate and into the area of success, happiness, and transition that we all deserve. Hey, until next week, this your boy, Tone Duncan. You're listening to Truth Seekrz every Tuesday, 7 p.m. I thank you deeply for this opportunity, and I look forward to following up with you guys on the Facebook feed, the YouTube feed, Insta feed, wherever y'all giving it. Thank you so much. Much love. See you Sunday, 1 p.m. Sunday Conversation. Peace.